In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, December 4th, here in South Korea. The presidential office is welcoming new secretaries and the cabinet is looking to do the same as new ministers are named starting this week ahead of next year's general election. Meanwhile, Seoul's Economy and Finance Ministry seeks to set in motion productive economic ventures between South Korea and the United Kingdom as recently agreed under the Downing Street Accord. Over in the Middle East, following a week-long tentative truce to allow for a hostage prisoner swap with Palestinian militant group Hamas, Israel has resumed its ground operation in Gaza, moving from the north into the south. The reshuffle at the presidential office is taking tangible shape with the announcement of a new spokesperson this past weekend, now paving the path to a cabinet reshuffle starting this work week that will include major ministerial posts. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
The presidential office announced its new spokesperson on Sunday. Kim Soo-kyung, most recently presidential secretary for Unification Affairs, took up the vacancy created by former spokesperson Lee Do-won's promotion to senior secretary for public relations.
I will work hard to accurately deliver state affairs to the people without distortion.
She's not new to the media scene. She started her professional career as a reporter at one of the biggest newspapers in the country, the 동아일보. After 4 years, she went to Stanford University to get a doctorate degree in sociology. She later researched North Korean human rights issues and worked at Korea University, the Ministry of Unification, and Hanshin University.
As someone with a career in journalism and various experiences, we expect her to be an excellent media communication partner.
In the meantime, on Monday, President Yoon officially gave appointment letters to the new Director of Policy Lee Kwon-seop and the 5 senior secretaries that he named last week to signal fresh start for the team. On top of this, as soon as Monday, a round of new minister nominees will be announced. This is due to the upcoming general election next April, which will force those running to quit their current public office jobs by January 11th under the Public Official Election Act. As of now, at least 7 ministers are set to run for parliament, with the biggest name being Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho, a 2-term lawmaker. The president's former Senior Secretary for Economic Affairs, Choi Sang-mok, is known to be nominated as the replacement. Other vacancies likely to be created include ministers for SMEs, infrastructure, and science. Justice Minister Han Dong-won is also being closely watched by the public as a key man in the Yoon administration and a close confidant to the president. He could make his debut in politics. In addition, Park Jin, the Foreign Affairs Minister, is being watched as well. And with the career politicians running for parliament, the replacements are expected to be comprised of mostly scholars and experts in the fields. The change comes amid a parliamentary review of the 2024 budget, and this could delay some key minister changes with the legal deadline for the review already passed last Friday. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Seoul's Economy and Finance Ministry is seeking to set in motion trade initiatives recently inked between South Korea and the UK that include clean energy and technology. Our ministry correspondent Shin Ha-young has details.
South Korea is seeking to further strengthen its economic ties with the United Kingdom. Measures to follow President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to the UK last month were discussed during a ministerial meeting on Monday, presided over by Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho. Chu highlighted that the Downing Street Agreement, which was adopted during last month's state visit, has laid the groundwork for a leap in economic cooperation with the UK.
A total of 45 MOUs were signed in the economic sector, achieving tangible results such as announcing investment pledges, winning contracts, and gaining support from the UK government for the activities of our financial institutions in the London financial market.
As part of the efforts for follow measures, the government decided to mainly focus on 4 areas, including trade and investment, clean energy, science and technology, and development cooperation. In particular, starting in January next year, when discussions on improving the FTA between Seoul and London commence, the government will launch intergovernmental consultative groups. These groups will include financial dialogues and investment cooperation committees. In the clean energy sector, the government will initiate discussions with the UK to allow Korean institutions to participate in new nuclear projects. The two countries will also cooperate in technology areas such as chips, AI, digital tech, and space. Regarding development cooperation, there will be annual policy dialogues between the governments. Regarding the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, Chiu mentioned an agreement to promote new investments worth $155 billion in the clean energy sector by 2030, adding that it will put its utmost effort into its swift implementation. The Finance Ministry also revealed plans to support reconstruction projects in war-torn Ukraine. He said short-term plans include contributing $100 million to the Multilateral Development Bank and providing $200 million in humanitarian aid. In the long run, it is planning to support by providing $2 billion through South Korea's Economic Development Cooperation Fund. 신하영, Arirang News.
Also, on the local front, companies with fewer than 50 workers may be offered an additional 2-year grace period as authorities here look to expand the scope of a workplace safety law. Our Shin Se-byuk explains.
Small companies may receive an additional 2-year grace period for a workplace safety law, which penalizes employers for severe industrial accidents, as the deadline approaches for firms with fewer than 50 employees. The decision was made during a consultative meeting of officials from the Presidential Office, the government, and the ruling People Power Party on Sunday, due to concerns over potential negative effects on small businesses.
Applying the laws indiscriminately could lead to closures of small and medium-sized businesses and subsequent job losses.
The government initially granted a grace period from the Serious Accidents Punishment Act until January 27, 2024, for companies with under 50 employees, acknowledging that about 80% of all serious accidents involve such firms. The act, which came into force in January 2022, imposes a minimum of 1 year in prison or fines up to 1 billion won, roughly $770,000, on business owners with 50 or more employees in cases of fatal on-duty disasters caused by inadequate workplace safety measures. Businesses with fewer than 5 employees remain exempt. To ensure the passage of the amendment by the end of this year, the ruling party stated that it would closely work with the main opposition Democratic Party. Last month, the Democratic Party of Korea took a conditionally supportive stance regarding the discussion on the 2-year grace period. The 3 conditions proposed by Democratic Party included an official apology from the government for the delay, concrete plans and financial support for workplace safety, and a firm commitment from economic organizations to enforce the act for all companies following the 2-year grace period. If passed, some 800,000 companies nationwide will be affected by the amendment. However, the legislative amendment is facing strong opposition from trade unions. The Federation of Korean Trade Unions said the grace period extension would expose workers to dangerous workplace conditions, while the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions is set to hold a rally on Tuesday. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
And in other news, South Korea's first spy satellite entered space this past weekend and has established communication with the ground station here in the country. This latest event comes amid heightened security concerns on the Korean peninsula. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jung-sil has more.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base on Saturday at 3:19 a.m. Korea Standard Time. It carried South Korea's first military reconnaissance satellite into space. South Korea's defense ministry said the satellite was placed in orbit and succeeded in communicating with a foreign ground station at 4:37 a.m. Korea time. And at 9:47 a.m., the satellite made communication with a South Korean ground station as well. The satellite will pass by the Korean peninsula twice a day and is expected to provide surveillance on North Korea. The defense officials added the South Korean military has secured a, quote, independent space surveillance and reconnaissance capability from the launch. We asked one of the top experts in aerospace engineering here in South Korea how Seoul's satellite is different from Pyongyang's.
We have a very good, improved satellite system, including the Earth observation payload camera system. So we can produce those very high resolution satellite system comparing to North Korean capability.
Defense Ministry officials said the South Korean satellite can identify objects less than 30 centimeters in size from an altitude of 400 to 600 kilometers. This is much better than Pyongyang's spy satellite, which reportedly has a limited resolution range of around 3 meters per pixel. But Professor Zhang warned that a single satellite won't nearly be enough to detect Pyongyang's nuclear threats in real time, which is why the South Korean military plans to launch more by 2025.
Korean military plans to launch 4 additional satellites that are implementing SAR payload system. SAR means SAR, which is representing synthetic aperture radar. Okay, that is able to take images in very high resolution without regard to day or night and any weather condition.
Professor Zhang added that South Korea may need to send many more satellites into space to detect Pyongyang's threats, giving us a glimpse of the need to prepare for space diplomacy. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
And Korea's Hanwha Aerospace has sealed a $2.6 billion deal to supply K9 howitzers to Poland. According to a company announcement earlier on this Monday, 152 K9 howitzers will be shipped to Poland by the year 2027 as part of a broader agreement last July to supply 672 K9 howitzers and 288 multiple rocket launch systems. Now, last year, 212 howitzers were shipped out. Hanwha will also be supplying Poland with self-propelled artillery and logistic support for maintenance and operation. After a week-long ceasefire to allow for the safe return of hostages held by Hamas in exchange for prisoners in Israeli detention centers, fighting has resumed in Gaza, with Israel expanding its ground mission from the north into the south. Our Ising-jae has the latest.
After 3 days of heavy airstrikes and ground offensives, the Israeli military is now pushing its way into southern Gaza. Speaking to soldiers on Sunday, the chief of the Israel Defense Forces, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, said the Israeli military fought strongly and thoroughly in the northern Gaza Strip and is now doing the same in southern Gaza. The Israeli military on Sunday issued evacuation orders for several districts of Khan Yunis, urging people to leave immediately. Israel believes that members of the Hamas leadership are hiding in the city, where many civilians have been fleeing to and finding shelter since the early stage of the armed conflict. Meanwhile, the IDF said Sunday that its troops have found more than 800 tunnel shafts in the Gaza Strip since the beginning of the ground offensive in October. It added that around 500 of them have already been destroyed, either by setting off large explosives inside or by sealing them. The military went on to say that many of the shafts were located in civilian areas, near or inside educational institutions, kindergartens, mosques, and playgrounds. The Israeli military also launched its 10,000th airstrike since October 7th on Sunday, with bombardment intensifying even more over the weekend after Israel and Hamas failed to reach a deal that would have released more hostages. Israel says more than 400 targets in northern Gaza have been struck since Friday, with Gaza's health ministry stating that at least 700 people have been killed in the renewed bombings, marking one of the highest daily death tolls recorded since the conflict began. As of Sunday, Gaza's health ministry estimates that more than 15,500 Palestinians have been killed since October, many of them women and children. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, LG Electronics has topped the best large-capacity washing machine ranking in all 3 Consumer Reports categories for this year. The 3 categories were front-loader, top-loader and agitator top-loading washers that are used by over 90% of U.S. consumers. In 2 of the categories, LG was also named Consumer Reports Green Choice, based on hands-on tests for the best environmentally friendly product of the year 2023. Meanwhile, washers made by Samsung Electronics ranked 2nd and 3rd in the agitator washers category. China has halted customs procedures, that is, for urea exports to Korea, fueling fears about the possibility of a logistics disruption similar to that which occurred 2 years ago. According to Yonhap News Agency, the government sources, that is, are linking this latest measure to domestic issues in China and not export control. But authorities in Beijing have yet to respond to Seoul's inquiry over the halt. Meanwhile, the economy ministry here says Korea currently has sufficient supplies for some 3 months. Now, back in the year 2021, Korea faced major urea shortages amid China's export restrictions. A beloved animated character among children here in the country is celebrating 20 years of adventure this year. That being said, my colleague Song Yoo-jin sought out the creator of Pororo, the little penguin, for his thoughts and more. To take a listen.
It's been 20 years since Pororo, the little penguin, started his adventure with his friends Eddie the fox, Lupi the beaver, Pobi the polar bear, and Kurong the dinosaur. It all started with Pororo's father, the creator Choi Jong-il, who had a vision of making an animation for toddlers.
As Korea entered the animation scene a bit later, I believe that focusing on content for toddlers would be a way to compete with the powerhouse, that is Japan. Choosing animals over humans as the main characters helps sidestep potential cultural barriers when targeting the international market. We specifically went with penguins, an animal loved by children, yet not extensively showcased in animations.
Choi's strategy turned out to be successful. The animation was exported to France the same year it was released, hitting a 47% viewer rating on the French channel TF1. So far, it's been exported to over 180 countries. However, these numbers are not all that Pororo has achieved. It opened a new chapter for Korean animations. Before Pororo, Korean animators were primarily subcontracted by production companies in the US and Japan. But Pororo was made entirely by Korean animators, from character development and plot creation.
In the content industry, one mega hit is crucial for a country to become globally competitive. That was Pororo. Its success comes from tapping into the niche market of toddlers, which was traditionally viewed as less lucrative even in animation powerhouses like the United States and Japan.
After Pororo came Korean originals like Ping Fong's Baby Shark, Laba, Kokomong, and Tayo, the Little Bus, thanks to increased investment. Their global success transformed Korea's animation landscape from a subcontractor to exporter. Despite these strides, the Korean animation market remains largely unexplored due to a heavy focus on marketable kids' content.
Korea could shift its focus to webtoons, as successful cases of turning webtoons into animations in the past will make it easier to attract investment. The combination of a well-loved webtoon and Korea's advanced animation technology means there's a potential to start a fresh wave of success.
This could elevate Korean animations to being a major cultural export item like K-pop and K-dramas. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the Philippines, at least 4 people have been killed and dozens injured in an explosion at a Catholic mass in the country's southern city of Marawi on Sunday morning. Islamic State militants have claimed responsibility for the attack. The bombing took place in the gymnasium of Mindanao State University, where the service was taking place. Authorities say the attack could be a response by the Dawla Islamia Maute group following a series of military operations against them by the Filipino military, including action which killed the group's leader on the same day. In 2017, Islamic State-linked Maute seized the city of Marawi, which has the largest Muslim population in the Philippines. What followed was a 5-month battle in which some 1,000 people, including civilians, died. On Saturday night in Paris, France, a man was killed and 2 others were injured in a knife and hammer attack on a street close to the Eiffel Tower. The suspect, a 26-year-old French man, was arrested later the same night. And on Sunday, an anti-terrorism prosecutor said that the suspect was found to have pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. Named as Armand R. and of being of Iranian descent in the French media, the suspect had previously posted a video expressing his support for the jihadist group. He had also served a 4-year prison sentence for planning an attack before being released in 2020. The victim who died was a German tourist, while a French and British national received non-life-threatening injuries. Alaska Airlines announced on Sunday that it would acquire Hawaiian Air for $1.9 billion. Alaska Air Group is set to pay $18 per share in cash in an acquisition deal for Hawaiian Holdings, the parent company of Hawaiian Airlines. The deal includes Hawaiian Airlines debt. Both companies agreed on the deal by Sunday. However, it still needs approval of the U.S. regulators as well as the shareholders of Hawaiian Holdings. Hawaiian Air has struggled recently due to the Maui wildfires as well as jet engine recall issues. The deal is expected to close in 12 to 18 months, but it could still face a potential challenge by U.S. antitrust enforcers, which have recently taken JetBlue's acquisition of Spirit Airlines to court. Germany's second busiest airport, Munich International Airport, suffered major disruptions over the weekend due to heavy snowfall, but has resumed its operations from 6 a.m. local time on Sunday. Southern Germany has been hit with heavy snowfall from Friday through to Saturday, affecting a total of 760 flights until Sunday morning, as well as rail traffic in the region. More than 40 centimeters of snow fell, unexpected for the early winter season in the state of Bavaria. While limited flights have resumed, Munich's main railway station remained closed on Sunday morning, along with the majority of the city's public transport. Kim Xiang, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. We can expect much more bearable afternoon temperatures, and it will be even warmer for the rest of the week. But stay warm. Many are coming down with cold, and it's always better to dress a bit warmer than to be shivering in the freezing temperatures. Meanwhile, East Coast regions have been under a dry weather advisory for a few days now, and especially those in the east of Gangwon-do have seen a dry advisory for more than 2 weeks. Be careful with any activities that may cause a wildfire this season. Afternoon highs are 1 to 3 degrees higher in most places. Sunnier skies will be joined by more clouds as the day goes on, and we can expect decent air quality in most parts of the country today. Nationwide rain is in the forecast across Korea on Wednesday, but that band of rain will not bring down the temperatures. In fact, we will stay way above the season norms this week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session, during which we address the recent surge in respiratory illnesses here and elsewhere. Do stay with us.